Welcome back to Cure for the Common Game. Today, in deck number 754, we're going to talk about Nadaar, the Selfless Paladin. Now, for 3 mana, we get a 3/3 Dragon Knight, another Dragonborn, in mono white. Has Vigilance. Whenever Nadaar enters or attacks, venture into the dungeon. So a little Titan-esque ability there. Other creatures you control get +1/+1 as long as you've completed a dungeon. So this one really doesn't care about doing a whole bunch of dungeons. Just at least you complete one, right? Now, I wasn't exactly certain where to start with this. So where I started was all of the venturing cards, right? So we have Ranger's Hawk, Delver's Torch, and I know Keen-Eared Sentry does not explicitly help us venture, but it kind of seemed on theme, making your opponents, can't venture more than once. Yeah. Gloomstalker, uh, a dungeon payoff, dungeon map, which also adds, doubles as a mana rock, Cloister Gargoyle, Veteran Dungeoneer, and the Planar Ally. So we are restricted to the mono white and colorless. I know there's some that I did not pull, but operating with what I've got. So there I was. I was like, well, that's it for my dungeon cards. So what else? And I was like, well, Nadaar has that if you've completed a dungeon, your team gets +1/+1. So I was like, well, that's really close to a Glorious Anthem effect, right? So I was like, I don't know, what, Anthem Tribal maybe? So Marshall's Anthem, Celestial Crusader, Paragon of the New Dawns, Divine Sacrament, Krovax, Ascendant Hero, which that non-white creature's getting -1 is not bad either. Now, we got to kind of be careful there because it is going to hurt our, artifact creatures. We don't have a lot, but like Solemn and whatever. But, Path of Bravery. This one kind of encourages you to do a life gain thing, which we'll get to here in a second. Angelic Field Marshal, +2/+2, and Vigilance. Okay. Now, Soul of Theros, it takes some work to get there. 6 mana to activate. But they get 2/2 in first strike and lifelink, so that's kind of not bad. Victory's Envoy, you just get a permanent counter every upkeep on your team. Resolve Advocate. At the beginning of each player may put 2/1/1 counters on a creature. It's just one creature, but. And then the Phantom General is where I started. I was like, tokens. So if we're going to do tokens and we want to gain a little bit of life, the Soul Warden, Soul's Attendant, Suture Priest, Daxos, as long as we're making a bunch of little tokens, we might as well be getting paid off for them, right? So, Conqueror's Pledge. Now, Springjack Shepherd does not see a whole lot of love. The Chroma was Devotion in Shadowmoor Eventide. They come out with Chroma, and nobody really cared for Chroma. So they retooled it and turned it into Devotion in Theros, and it was a hit. So it's one of those things that they knew they had something, but the execution just wasn't quite right. Amir Angel. I probably need an Amir Angel for every white deck, right? 3 dudes, seriously. The Regal Caracal is, it makes the tokens and pumps the tokens, so that's pretty neat. Sacred Mesa, one of my favorite cards. You know, if you had it back in the day, you had Sacred Mesa and Wild Growth and the Green Enchant. Yeah, it was fun. Leonin War Leader. Every time it attacks, you have more kitty cats. Archon of Sun's Grace. I love that. Pegasus creatures you control have lifelink. No, I'm not running the big 10 mana one, 9, 8, whatever. Um, but whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, you create a 2/2 white Pegasus creature token. That right there, what sold me on the Archon was all of those anthems are artifacts. I'm sorry, all those anthems are enchantments. And I got to looking at exactly how many enchantments I had in the deck, and I was like, wow. So, I mean, I kind of leaned into it, you know. The archetype of courage. Brave the Sands doesn't see enough love. They all get vigilance, and they can double block. Sphere of Safety. I mean, you know, that's Armored Ascension. Prediction, we're going to have some planes. Griff's Boon. I like Griff's Boon because you get to bounce it back from the yard. Ethereal Armor. And then I threw the Mesa Enchantress in there for a little bit of card draw, you know. Hour of Reckoning and Martial Coup. Some board wipes that also create tokens. But let's look at some mana here, right? I mentioned the Solum Simulacrum. Now, Oketra's Monument, I don't know. In this particular deck, I love the card, but in this particular deck, if it wasn't for the cast a creature, get a creature, I probably wouldn't have run it because we don't have a whole lot of just white creature spells, right? Seer's Lantern, Spectral Searchlight, Altar of the Pantheon, Gold Mirror, Marble Diamond, the two fetchers, the Core Cartographer and the Oris Explorer. Now, I like Explorer Scope in mono white because you're typically going to be swinging, right? So, you got a, 38% chance that it's going to be a land card, and if it is, you get it for the free. Brave the Elements, so mono white card. I like White Main Line, I really do, for the bouncy thing. And then Approach of the Second Sun is a decent alternate win condition, because there are times when you get locked out of combat or whatever. It's a decent secondary. But then we have some removal. Condemn, Disenchant, Celestial Purge, Portable Hole, because I try to use as many new stuff as possible. Dispeller's Capsule, Suspension Field. I could have leaned probably a little harder into the enchantment spot removal, and then Tariff. Tariff is a card does not see a lot of love. Has only ever been printed twice, but everybody pays for their highest creature again. If not, they sack it, which is, probably their best creature. It's a thing. And then that brings us to our non-basic lands. The Myriad Landscape. That way we can make one land drop into two. Guildless Commons. Forbidding Watchtower. These man lands. The reason why I love them is sometimes they are so clutch. Your opponents, because, it's a land. You're tapping it for white mana. It's down there. It's doing land things. And it just slips your opponent's mind. And all of a sudden you can create a blocker when they have overcommitted to a combat, or you have this quote-unquote surprise blocker. Even though it's not a surprise, it's been out there the whole time. It just doesn't, it slips people's mind because they automatically just group it as a land. Ghost Quarter for those pesky lands that need to go away. A Secluded Step. And lastly, of course, a Rogue's Passage. Now, this deck makes quite a bit of tokens. But before we get to those, the pre-release kits, this is something I haven't seen addressed anywhere. The pre-release kits have foil the foil dungeons, which is really neat. But as usual, I made my own tokens. So we have spirits, and we're gonna have to make cats and goats. Amir Shepherd, of course, makes birds. The warrior, soldier, the core soldier. Now, we also make two different kinds of Pegasus. We make a normal 1/1 Pegasus, and then we make a bigger, stronger Pegasus, the 2/2 Pegasus. So, that is all for this deck. I've kind of gotten into the, making my own tokens thing for the deck, so... but that is Nadaar. So let's go put Nadaar over here on the wall. And I do apologize. I'm shipping and all kinds of stuff. Let me, smart guy would have moved all this stuff beforehand. But I ain't never been accused of that. Anyway, I appreciate y'all watching. Y'all let me know what you think. But right now, we're going to go ahead and shuffle and cut.